The galaxy was vast, filled with stars, planets, and civilizations of every kind. Among these civilizations, the Empire had grown to be one of the most powerful. For centuries, they had ruled over hundreds of star systems, spreading their influence. With strong fleets, advanced weapons, and strict control, they believed no one could challenge their rule. Imperial leaders often spoke proudly of their strength, confident that any threat could be crushed easily. It was a time of calm for them, a time when they felt untouchable. In one of the Empire's command centers, officers moved with precision, monitoring signals, fleets, and trade routes. They laughed at minor disturbances, dismissing them as insignificant. A signal from the outer rim came in just a small flicker of energy, barely noticeable. Some officers suggested checking it, but most brushed it aside. "It's probably just a star anomaly," one said. "Nothing to worry about," another replied. There was a sense of comfort in their arrogance. They had faced attacks before and had always won. They believed they knew the limits of the galaxy, and in their mind, no one could match the Empire's might. Meanwhile, far from the Empire's controlled space, on a small blue planet called Earth, humans were quietly preparing. The galaxy had no idea of the progress humanity had made. On Earth, scientists and engineers worked in hidden facilities, creating technology that even the most advanced civilizations could not imagine. The humans had watched the Empire from a distance, learning, studying, and planning. They had no desire for war, but they knew that if the Empire ever reached Earth, it would mean destruction. So they prepared in secret, not for show, but for survival. Life on Earth seemed ordinary to outsiders. People went about their days, unaware of the vast plans being made above them. Children played in parks, workers traveled to offices, and cities buzzed with life. But beneath this normal surface, the humans were readying something extraordinary. They had built a warship unlike any the galaxy had seen. Its engines were silent, its weapons powerful, and its technology advanced beyond imagination. But it was not just a machine. It was the product of human determination, creativity, and teamwork. Every detail was designed with care, every system tested and perfected. The humans believed in their mission, not out of pride or arrogance, but out of necessity. Survival was not guaranteed, and they knew that. Back in the Empire, officers continued to ignore the small signals coming from the outer rim. "Probably a minor meteor shower or a rogue satellite," one officer said with a dismissive shrug. They had no idea that the humans were watching them as closely as they were being watched. For the humans, the Empire's confidence was a window into their weaknesses. They studied imperial routines, fleet patterns, and communication signals. Every movement of the Empire's ships was analyzed, every command predicted. It was not just technology that gave humans an advantage. It was their patience and attention to detail. They understood that speed alone could not win a war. Timing, strategy, and careful planning were equally important. As days passed, the Empire continued its routine, completely unaware of the storm quietly approaching. Human pilots trained tirelessly, engineers ran endless simulations, and commanders studied every possible scenario. They were preparing for something unprecedented. No one on Earth had seen a full-scale confrontation with the Empire before. They didn't have to imagine how terrifying it could be. They studied the Empire's history and understood the danger. Yet fear did not dominate them. Instead, it drove them to prepare, to think carefully, and to ensure that when the time came, they could respond without hesitation. On one quiet night, the humans held a meeting deep inside the control center of the warship. The room was filled with soft lights, screens showing endless data, and the quiet hum of advanced machines. The leaders spoke calmly, carefully, without panic. "The Empire underestimates us," one said. "They believe no one can challenge them. That is our advantage." Another added, "We must be ready. The first move is critical. If we act too early or too late, everything could fail." There was no bravado in their words, only focus. They were not heroes seeking glory. They were humans facing a challenge much larger than themselves. They understood the stakes and accepted them. Even as they planned, ordinary people on Earth continued their lives, unaware of the massive forces moving above their heads. Cities sparkled at night, satellites orbited silently, and communication networks hummed with activity. To most, the galaxy was a distant mystery, something they read about or watched in stories. But for a small group of humans, the galaxy was a battlefield waiting to be shaped by careful choices and courage. They were the quiet guardians, prepared to act when the moment arrived. The calm of this time was misleading. To the Empire, it seemed like nothing significant was happening. But in reality, every day brought the humans closer to readiness. Every calculation, test, and adjustment made the warship more capable. Every decision by the human commanders refined. Their strategy. They knew that once the Empire realized they had a threat, it would already be too late to respond effectively. This quiet preparation was not a secret of arrogance. It was a shield of necessity. The humans could not risk failure. As the first signals of the Empire's routine movements passed unnoticed, the humans watched carefully, noting every detail. They studied patrol patterns, fleet rotations, and communication sequences. They understood the Empire's strengths and weaknesses. They had no intention of fighting without purpose. Their mission was not conquest, it was survival, a test of skill, strategy, and courage. The calm before the storm was ending, even if the Empire did not realize it. The humans knew that soon the galaxy would witness something extraordinary, something no one could ignore. And so the stage was set. Two civilizations, one confident in its unstoppable power and the other quietly prepared, were about to meet in a way that no one could predict. The Empire believed it controlled the galaxy, unaware that something beyond their understanding was approaching. The humans, ready and focused, waited for the moment when they would emerge from the shadows. What seemed like ordinary days were, in truth, the final preparation for an event that would shake the galaxy. The first part of this story is not about battles, explosions, or victories. It is about preparation, observation, and patience. It is about humans quietly shaping their future, using intellect, strategy, and determination to face a force far stronger than themselves. The calm before the storm was not empty. It was the moment when humans became ready for something no one believed was possible. And when the time came, the galaxy would never forget the day a human warship emerged from nowhere. The sudden arrival of the human warship changed everything. One moment, the Empire believed the galaxy was under control, and the next, their instruments picked up something unlike anything they had seen before. The warship appeared at the edge of their controlled space, emerging out of the darkness of the void as if it had materialized from thin air. It was massive, yet sleek, designed with purpose and precision. Its surface reflected starlight in a way that made it look almost alive. Every Imperial officer who saw it froze for a moment, unsure if what they were witnessing was real. Messages were sent immediately to the command centers, alerting fleets and governors to this sudden presence. But the humans did not announce themselves. There were no demands, no signs of communication, only the silent, unstoppable presence of the warship hovering at the border of Imperial space. The Empire scrambled to respond. Ships were deployed, reconnaissance drones launched, and signals sent to try to identify the newcomers. Yet every attempt to scan the warship failed. Its energy signatures were unlike anything in the Empire's vast database, and its shields absorbed every attempt to probe it. It was as if the warship had been built to avoid detection, and in many ways, it had succeeded. On board the human warship, the crew worked in quiet focus. There was no celebration, no rush of excitement. They had trained for this moment for years, and every move was deliberate. Engineers monitored the engines, ensuring optimal performance, while strategists analyzed the positions of the Empire's fleets from the edge of space. Pilots ran final simulations, checking every protocol. Though the warship appeared massive and imposing, it was more than just strength. It was the result of careful planning, human intelligence, and patience. Every action had a purpose, and the crew knew that one wrong decision could cost them everything. Back in the Empire, confusion grew. Reports kept coming in from officers stationed at the border. "It's too large to be a scout," one said nervously. "It's not matching any known designs," another added. The higher command could not comprehend what they were seeing. The warship's appearance challenged everything they believed about the galaxy. For centuries, the Empire had faced threats, but never anything so advanced, so deliberate, and so controlled. There was a sense of panic slowly creeping into the halls of command. The human warship did not attack. It did not advance or retreat immediately. It simply appeared, silent and watchful. For the Empire, this was maddening. Military leaders debated, endlessly, unsure whether to strike first or observe. Some argued that patience was dangerous. The humans were unpredictable and could strike at any moment. Others suggested negotiation, though no one knew what to say or even how to communicate with them. The Empire had faced aliens before, but none with this combination of intelligence, technology, and restraint. They had never encountered beings. Who could think so many steps ahead? As hours passed, the human warship moved with calculated precision. It shifted positions slightly, testing the Empire's responses without committing to any action. Every movement was measured, almost deliberate in its simplicity. The humans on board were not trying to intimidate. They were gathering information, learning the patterns of their opponent while ensuring they remained safe. For them, this was a test not of strength alone, but of observation, patience, and understanding. They knew that rushing into battle would be a mistake. They also knew that showing weakness would be equally dangerous. Imperial fleets began to mobilize. Hundreds of ships, armed with the Empire's most powerful weapons, moved into formation. They expected the humans to panic, to retreat, or to make a mistake. They were confident that overwhelming numbers would force compliance. Yet the humans did not move recklessly. They calculated the Empire's formations, anticipating the positions of ships and the likely points of attack. Every Imperial maneuver was noted and countered without firing a shot. This silence frustrated the Empire even further. Their vast forces could not provoke a response, and this created unease among their commanders. Meanwhile, on Earth, people remained unaware of the monumental event unfolding in deep space. Ordinary life went on. People watched sunsets, traveled to work, and spoke of ordinary concerns. Yet above them, the humans who had prepared for this moment were testing their readiness. They were not motivated by pride or glory. They were motivated by the knowledge that the galaxy underestimated them. For decades, humans had watched empires rise and fall, always careful to avoid drawing attention. Now, it was time to show that preparation, intelligence, and resolve could outweigh sheer numbers and brute force. The human warship also sent subtle signals, not messages of diplomacy, but signals designed to test the Empire's reactions. The Empire struggled to interpret them. Some scientists tried to analyze the energy patterns, only to find that every analysis led to more questions. The humans were methodical, precise, and mysterious, leaving the Empire scrambling for answers. This was more than a technological challenge. It was psychological. The presence of the warship alone caused hesitation and doubt. Commanders who had once been confident in their supremacy now questioned their own knowledge and strategy. At one point, a small Imperial scouting team attempted to approach the human warship. Their mission was simple: gather information and assess any potential threat. But as their ships came closer, they realized the warship was already aware of them. Advanced tracking systems predicted their paths, defensive shields adapted, and advanced tracking systems predicted their paths, defensive shields adapted. The humans on board calculated every possible scenario. The scouts returned with reports describing a ship that seemed alive in its intelligence. No one had ever witnessed anything like it. The reports sent ripples through the Empire's chain of command, increasing fear and confusion. Hours turned into a full cycle, and still the warship remained. Its appearance had disrupted the Empire's confidence, shattered their assumptions, and created a ripple of doubt. It was clear that the humans had arrived with a purpose, though no one yet understood what that purpose was. The Empire's leaders debated endlessly, while humans quietly continued their observation and preparation. This was a moment of tension, a moment when the galaxy held its breath, waiting for the first move. Despite the growing tension, the humans on board the warship remained calm. They knew that this moment, while critical, was only the beginning. The arrival itself was a statement of presence, a demonstration of readiness, and a test of strategy. The humans were not reckless. They were deliberate. They understood that patience often won battles before a single weapon was fired. They also understood that the Empire, though powerful, had weaknesses rooted in arrogance and overconfidence. By remaining calm, silent, and precise, the humans turned those weaknesses into opportunities. As the first part of this confrontation came to a close, one thing became clear: the Empire had never faced an opponent like this. For the first time, their control over the galaxy was questioned, not by a fleet, not by diplomacy, but by the quiet, calculated presence of a single human warship. In the vastness of space, two civilizations had now locked eyes, one confident in its dominance, the other confident in its preparation. The tension was almost unbearable, the anticipation electric. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. This was not the battle itself. It was something far more dangerous, the beginning of a confrontation where intelligence, patience, and human determination would challenge an empire that believed it was untouchable. The calm before the storm was ending, and the human warship had emerged not just to be seen, but to signal that everything the Empire believed about the galaxy was about to change. And so, the story continued, not with explosions or immediate conflict, but with the quiet, intense preparation of a war that no one had yet fully understood. The humans had arrived. The Empire had noticed. The stage was set for an event that would shake the galaxy to its very core. The first confrontation had finally begun. The Empire, frustrated by the human warship's sudden and mysterious appearance, decided they could no longer wait. They believed that overwhelming force would solve the problem quickly. Entire fleets were mobilized, and the Empire's most advanced ships moved into formation. Energy weapons charged, shields raised, and tactical officers gave orders with confidence that had never been questioned before. They were ready to strike and expected victory. From the human side, the atmosphere was calm but focused. On board, the warship, engineers, pilots, and commanders moved with quiet precision. They had anticipated this moment for years. Every system was optimized, every weapon calibrated, every strategy rehearsed countless times. They were not overconfident. They were careful. They understood that the Empire had sheer numbers and firepower, but the humans had preparation, ingenuity, and timing. Their confidence came from knowledge and planning, not arrogance. The initial attack began with Imperial fighter squadrons launching in waves toward the human warship. Lasers and energy projectiles streaked through the darkness of space, lighting up the void in bright flashes. Imperial officers watched eagerly, certain that the humans would struggle to defend against such a barrage. But the warship moved with unbelievable precision. Its shields absorbed the attacks almost effortlessly, and countermeasures redirected incoming fire. Small energy pulses and automated drones disrupted the trajectories of Imperial weapons, making even their most advanced fighters ineffective. Imperial officers were shocked. Every attack they launched seemed to fail. Their calculations had never accounted for this level of speed, strategy, and adaptability. The human warship did not simply react, it anticipated. Every move was carefully considered, exploiting even the smallest mistakes of the Empire. Ships that were supposed to overwhelm the humans found themselves maneuvered into positions where their attacks were neutralized or redirected harmlessly. The first wave of Imperial fighters was destroyed, and panic began to ripple through the command ranks. Meanwhile, the humans on board were working in seamless coordination. Engineers adjusted shield frequencies in real time. Pilots piloted auxiliary craft to intercept threats, and strategists calculated every possible Imperial maneuver. Communication was calm and efficient. There were no raised voices, no panic. Only a sense of control and focus. Each crew member understood their role perfectly, acting not out of fear or aggression, but out of responsibility and precision. It was teamwork in its purest form, a demonstration of what careful preparation could achieve. The Empire, realizing the first wave had failed, escalated the attack. Capital ships opened fire, unleashing volleys of energy that could destroy entire planets. Commanders expected the human warship to falter under such overwhelming force. But the humans were ready. Their advanced shielding absorbed the damage, dispersing energy in ways that Imperial engineers could not comprehend. Every strike the Empire launched was countered with intelligent maneuvers, avoiding catastrophic damage while keeping the ship fully operational. The humans were proving something the Empire had never faced before, that superior numbers and firepower did not always guarantee victory. In the command center of the Empire, confusion and fear were spreading rapidly. Generals argued about what to do next, each suggestion more desperate than the last. Some proposed sending all remaining fleets in a single massive assault, while others suggested pulling back to regroup. Yet every plan was met with hesitation, because the humans were already anticipating the Empire's responses. The warship moved in ways that were almost impossible to predict. For the first time in history, Imperial leaders realized that intelligence, strategy, and coordination could outmatch raw strength. Back on Earth, though most people remained unaware of the events unfolding in space, the humans on board the warship understood the gravity of the situation. They were not fighting for glory. They were fighting for survival, for proving that careful planning and human ingenuity could stand against overwhelming power. The stakes were enormous. A single mistake could mean destruction, yet the crew moved with remarkable calm. Their focus was unshakable. Every movement, every command, every adjustment was part of a carefully executed plan. The battle continued. For hours, Imperial ships tried different tactics, hoping to exploit weaknesses they believed must exist. They attacked from new angles, tested different weapon systems, and attempted to confuse the humans with feints. Each time, the human warship adapted immediately. Shields were adjusted, countermeasures deployed, and small craft redirected to neutralize threats. The Empire's frustration grew as their confidence eroded. What was supposed to be a quick victory turned into a nightmare. Every failure was a blow to morale, every miscalculation a reminder of their vulnerability. Despite the intensity of the confrontation, the humans remained remarkably composed. They were not reckless, but deliberate in every action. They understood that their advantage lay not just in technology, but in their ability to remain calm under pressure. Panic could be as dangerous as the enemy's weapons. The crew relied on training, teamwork, and quick thinking to turn the Empire's aggression into opportunities. Every Imperial attack that failed made the humans stronger, giving them more information and better control over the battle. As the first major engagement reached its peak, the Empire made a final desperate push. Hundreds of ships formed a massive wave, concentrating firepower in the hope of overwhelming the human warship in a single strike. The humans anticipated this. They had calculated the exact timing, positioning, and energy distribution required to counter such an assault. Shields absorbed the energy, drones intercepted key threats, and the ship moved with unmatched agility. Imperial weapons, despite their power, were rendered almost useless. The human warship had turned what should have been a desperate situation into a controlled environment, demonstrating precision and dominance without showing arrogance. The aftermath of this first confrontation was astonishing. The Empire suffered heavy losses, far beyond what they had anticipated. Entire fleets returned in defeat, damaged and demoralized. Commanders who had once believed victory was guaranteed now faced the harsh reality that the humans were a force unlike any they had encountered. The warship, though undamaged, remained at the edge of Imperial space, a silent and unyielding presence. It had emerged, fought, and proved its capability, all without reckless aggression or unnecessary destruction. For the humans, this first battle was a confirmation of their preparation. They had tested their strategies, demonstrated their technological edge, and maintained control under extreme pressure. Yet they did not celebrate. They knew the Empire would not stop here. The confrontation had only just begun, and larger challenges were ahead. Every crew member remained focused, analyzing every move, learning from every interaction. The warship itself was not just a vessel of destruction. It was a symbol of human ingenuity, discipline, and resilience. Meanwhile, across the Empire, the defeat caused chaos and fear. Imperial officers, accustomed to unquestioned dominance, now realized that their power was not absolute. Reports of losses and failures spread quickly, and morale plummeted. The humans had shown that intelligence, preparation, and adaptability could counter raw strength. For centuries, the Empire had assumed no civilization could challenge them. Now, they faced undeniable proof that this belief was wrong. Doubt began to take root in the minds of leaders, eroding the confidence that had defined the Empire for generations. Even as the first battle ended, the tension in space remained high. The human warship had not retreated. It had not attacked further. It had simply proven its presence, its capability, and its strategic advantage. The Empire, shaken and uncertain, struggled to formulate a response. Human preparation, calm, and intelligence had not only won the first confrontation, they had changed the perception of power itself. The first battle was more than just an exchange of fire. It was a demonstration of what humans could achieve when they combined technology, strategy, and calm under pressure. It was a reminder that even the most powerful empire could be challenged when their opponent used intelligence and preparation instead of brute force. In the vastness of space, the humans had shown that they were ready not just to fight, but to redefine the rules of engagement. And so, as the first confrontation ended, one truth became clear. The Empire had faced something extraordinary, and the humans had emerged not just unscathed, but victorious in strategy. The stage was now set for the next phase of this unprecedented encounter. The galaxy had witnessed the beginning of a new era, one in which patience, preparation, and human ingenuity could rival the might of an empire. After the first confrontation, the Empire realized that their usual strategies would not work. They had faced threats before, but none like this human warship. It had survived volleys of energy fire, outmaneuvered squadrons of fighters, and proven that sheer numbers alone could not guarantee victory. The initial shock quickly turned into frustration, and then into desperation. For the first time, the Empire understood that the humans were not just advanced, they were clever, adaptable, and utterly determined. Imperial leaders held urgent meetings, convening their top strategists and commanders. The room was tense, filled with voices arguing over what had gone wrong. Some suggested sending more fleets to overwhelm the human warship, confident that eventually the humans would falter. Others warned that further attacks might only lead to more disaster. There were heated debates about whether to retreat, negotiate, or find some secret weapon to turn the tide. Every plan, however, seemed uncertain. The humans had demonstrated an ability to anticipate and adapt that the Empire had never seen before. Back on the human warship, the crew worked tirelessly. They knew the Empire would escalate, and they prepared for every possibility. Engineers ran simulations to predict fleet movements, strategists analyzed Imperial responses, and pilots trained in virtual exercises that mirrored the real battlefield. Communication between teams was precise, calm, and effective. There was no panic, no reckless behavior, only the quiet confidence that comes from preparation and skill. The humans understood that the next phase would be more challenging, and they were ready. The Empire decided to escalate. Entire fleets moved in coordinated waves, carrying some of their most devastating weapons. Massive energy beams could destroy entire planetary systems, and the Empire intended to use every advantage they had. They attacked from multiple directions, hoping to confuse the humans and exploit any weakness. The scale of the assault was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Imperial commanders were sure that such overwhelming force would finally break the human warship. But the humans were ready. They had anticipated the escalation and planned for it carefully. Their shields adjusted automatically to absorb concentrated fire, and the ship's movement was calculated to avoid the most dangerous zones. Small auxiliary craft intercepted key threats before they reached the main vessel, and automated drones disabled enemy targeting systems. Every Imperial strike that should have caused destruction was neutralized with calm precision. The humans were demonstrating that strategy and intelligence could triumph over sheer firepower. The battle was fierce, yet unlike any traditional fight. There were no reckless charges, no chaotic explosions filling space. Every action by the humans was deliberate, measured, and aimed at maximum efficiency. Every defensive maneuver, every countermeasure, every slight adjustment of position was designed to preserve the ship while weakening the Empire's advantage. The crew worked together seamlessly, trusting each other to perform their roles perfectly. It was a display of teamwork, skill, and human ingenuity at its highest level. The Empire's frustration grew with each failed attempt. Commanders who had once been supremely confident now questioned their assumptions. They tried different tactics, splitting fleets, attacking from unexpected angles, and even deploying experimental weapons. But the humans anticipated almost every move. The warship adapted constantly, its technology responding in real time to threats and exploiting weaknesses in the Empire's approach. The humans were not merely defending, they were shaping the battle, turning the Empire's attacks into opportunities to gather intelligence and prepare for the next phase. On board the warship, there was no celebration, no boastfulness. The crew remained focused, knowing that the Empire's desperation would only increase. They studied every movement, calculated every risk, and ensured that the ship remained fully operational despite the intensity of the attack. Each member understood that patience was a weapon in itself. By staying calm and calculated, they forced the Empire to make mistakes, which could then be used to their advantage. The humans also began subtle offensive maneuvers. Not reckless attacks, but precise actions designed to demonstrate strength and discourage further aggression. They disabled key systems on some Imperial ships without destroying them, A clear message that they could strike if necessary, but preferred control over wanton destruction. Imperial officers watched in disbelief as entire squadrons were rendered ineffective without the humans losing a single ship. For the first time, the Empire realized that the humans were not just capable, they were extraordinary. The psychological impact on the Empire was profound. Soldiers who had once marched with confidence now hesitated. Fleet commanders second-guessed every order. For generations, the Empire had believed that power could only be measured by numbers and weapons. Now, they faced a reality where intelligence, planning, and human determination could match, and even surpass, brute force. Fear and uncertainty spread through the ranks, weakening their resolve even further. The human crew, meanwhile, continued to operate as if nothing extraordinary was happening. Their calmness was not ignorance, it was mastery. Every maneuver, every adjustment of the warship systems, every countermeasure was performed with purpose. Engineers monitored energy flows, ensuring that shields and weapons operated at peak efficiency. Pilots navigated auxiliary craft with precision, intercepting threats before they could cause harm. Strategists analyzed the Empire's responses, preparing for the next escalation. It was not just a battle. It was a demonstration of human discipline and ingenuity under pressure. Despite the overwhelming size of the Empire's forces, the human warships seemed untouchable. The more the Empire attacked, the more their weaknesses were exposed. Ships collided, weapons malfunctioned, and coordination broke down under the stress of repeated failures. The humans, however, exploited these moments without cruelty or unnecessary aggression. Their goal was not to destroy recklessly, but to survive, to demonstrate capability, and to control the flow of the battle. Every success reinforced the humans' confidence and further unsettled the Empire. At one point, the Empire attempted a desperate maneuver, sending entire fleets in synchronized attacks from multiple directions simultaneously. They believed the humans could not possibly defend against such coordinated assaults. But the warship adapted with unmatched skill. Shields redirected energy, drones intercepted the most dangerous threats, and auxiliary craft executed precise defensive patterns. Imperial commanders watched in horror as their carefully planned assault failed again and again. The humans had turned what should have been a devastating attack into an opportunity to strengthen their position and gather crucial intelligence about the Empire's tactics. The confrontation was no longer just physical. It had become a battle of minds. The humans anticipated and adapted, staying several steps ahead at all times. The Empire, despite its size and experience, struggled to keep up. Every attack they launched was countered. Every strategy they tried was predicted, and every attempt to intimidate the humans was met with calm precision. The warship had become more than a machine. It was a symbol of human intelligence, preparation, and unshakable resolve. As the hours stretched into days, the Empire's desperation reached a peak. High-ranking officials demanded more aggressive action, while others urged caution. Debates raged in command centers across multiple star systems. Morale was failing. Soldiers and officers who had once believed in the Empire's invincibility now questioned whether victory was possible. The humans had not just survived, they had turned the Empire's power against itself, showing that preparation and discipline could overcome overwhelming odds. Even as the battle intensified, the human crew remained calm, focused on the mission. They did not act recklessly. Every move was deliberate. Every system was monitored, every calculation double-checked. They knew that overconfidence could be dangerous, but careful planning was their greatest strength. By maintaining control under pressure, they forced the Empire to make mistakes, creating openings that the humans could exploit if necessary. In the end, the first stage of this desperate escalation ended in a stalemate, but it was a stalemate, heavily in favor of the humans. The Empire had expended enormous resources and lost hundreds of ships without achieving its goals. The human warship remained fully operational, demonstrating that patience, preparation, and intelligence were as powerful as any weapon. The Empire had been forced to rethink everything it believed about warfare, power, and human potential. For the humans, the lesson was clear. The Empire would not stop. Their determination, ingenuity, and preparation had bought them time and demonstrated capability, but the challenge was far from over. The warship would need to continue adapting, anticipating, and acting with precision to survive the coming stages. They understood the stakes and were ready. The Empire, on the other hand, had been humiliated. Their confidence shattered, their fleets damaged, and their morale weakened. They faced the terrifying reality that one human warship could challenge the entire Empire. For centuries, they had believed no civilization could rise against them. Now they faced undeniable proof that humans were not to be underestimated. And so, as the confrontation drew to a pause, both sides understood the stakes. The humans had survived the Empire's first waves of attacks, and now the battle had reached a turning point. The Empire, though vast and powerful, had begun to realize that brute force alone could not achieve victory. Their confidence, once unshakable, had been replaced with caution, hesitation, and a growing fear of the unknown. Every plan seemed to falter, every attack was countered, and every strategy was anticipated by the human warship. The Empire's leaders had no choice but to reconsider everything they believed about power, strategy, and intelligence. On board the human warship, the crew worked tirelessly. They knew the Empire would not stop. They never did, but the humans had an advantage the Empire could not match: adaptability. Every maneuver, every defensive adjustment, every strategic decision had been carefully considered in advance, and the crew executed them flawlessly. The humans had studied the Empire's tactics for years, predicting their possible moves, and now they were using that knowledge to shape the battle. Unlike the Empire, which relied on overwhelming numbers and destructive force, the humans relied on precision, intelligence, and anticipation. The first stage of the battle had shown the humans' defensive strength, but now they began to take the initiative. Their movements became bolder, calculated strikes that disrupted Imperial formations without risking the ship itself. Small but critical attacks disabled enemy weapons, scattered fighters, and slowed the advance of massive fleets. Each strike was deliberate, designed not to destroy for the sake of destruction, but to control the battlefield. The humans had learned the Empire's patterns and weaknesses, and they used this knowledge like a master chess player using every piece to corner an opponent. Imperial commanders were growing desperate. Their fleets, once confident and orderly, were now disorganized and demoralized. Squadrons collided in the chaos, weapons misfired, and communication lines were overwhelmed by constant counterattacks. What should have been a simple engagement had turned into a nightmare for them. Officers argued furiously, demanding immediate action, yet every decision they made seemed to fall into the humans' plan. The Empire had assumed the humans were weaker, slower, and predictable, but they had been wrong. Completely wrong. The humans did not advance recklessly. Every offensive action was paired with careful defense. Shields were constantly adjusted. Drones intercepted the most dangerous threats, and small craft executed maneuvers to prevent the ship from ever being cornered. Each move was calculated, based on intelligence gathered from the previous attacks. The warship acted like an extension of the crew's mind, a vessel that responded instantly to threats and opportunities alike. Even the Empire's most advanced weapons could not penetrate this careful coordination. One particularly bold maneuver involved the humans exploiting a gap in the Empire's formation. A fleet of Imperial ships had moved too far apart in their attempt to encircle the warship. The humans seized the opportunity, sending a small squadron to disable the lead ship's navigation systems. Within moments, the formation began to break apart. Panic spread among the Empire's officers as they struggled to regain control. The humans did not destroy the ships. They simply neutralized their ability to coordinate, leaving them vulnerable and confused. It was a brilliant display of strategy over brute force, and it shocked the Empire. For the first time, the Empire faced a situation where their greatest advantage, their size and firepower, was being used against them. Ships that had been designed to dominate now became liabilities, their coordination disrupted, and their effectiveness reduced. Imperial soldiers began to question their orders. They had been trained to obey, to rely on superior numbers, and to trust in the Empire's technology. But none of that mattered against the humans. Intelligence and adaptability. Fear and doubt spread like wildfire, eroding confidence and morale at every level. The human crew remained calm through it all. They did not gloat, they did not rush, and they did not allow emotions to cloud their judgment. Every decision was made with focus, every maneuver executed with care. They understood that patience was as important as skill. They had prepared for this exact scenario, and their ability to remain composed under pressure gave them an edge no weapon could replicate. The crew trusted one another completely, and that trust became a silent force that the Empire could not understand or counteract as the battle continued. The humans began to push further, testing the limits of the Empire's response. They moved closer to key Imperial ships, disrupting energy flows and causing weapons to misfire. Entire squadrons became ineffective without being destroyed, a demonstration of control rather than violence. The humans were teaching the Empire a lesson. Strength alone was meaningless without strategy and intelligence. The warship's every action sent a clear message. The humans were not only capable of surviving, they were capable of dominating. Psychological impact on the Empire was devastating. Soldiers who had once believed in victory now hesitated. Officers second-guessed every command. Even the most experienced commanders began to fear making mistakes, knowing that the humans would exploit them immediately. The humans had demonstrated that they were not just technologically advanced, they were disciplined, intelligent, and capable of thinking several steps ahead. For the first time, the Empire was forced to confront the idea that they might not be able to win. No matter how many ships or weapons they deployed in response, the Empire tried to escalate once more. Entire fleets fired in synchronized volleys, hoping that sheer intensity could overwhelm the humans. But the warship had anticipated this. Shields redirected energy flows, drones intercepted the most dangerous attacks, and auxiliary craft neutralized key weapons before they could strike. The humans had calculated the Empire's likely moves and were always prepared, turning the Empire's own aggression into a display of their own capability. Every attack that should have caused destruction was absorbed or deflected, leaving the humans unscathed and in control. Even as the humans pressed forward, they did not attack recklessly. Their strikes were precise, disabling key systems, scattering fleets, and creating openings without causing unnecessary destruction. Each action was carefully measured, demonstrating both power and restraint. The Empire had never faced such a calculated opponent. Their weapons, once feared across the galaxy, were now almost irrelevant against the human superior planning and coordination. The humans had turned the battlefield into a place where intelligence and preparation mattered more than firepower by the end of this stage. It was clear that the humans had not only survived, they had gained the upper hand. The Empire's fleets were battered, disorganized, and demoralized. Commanders struggled to regain control, but every move they made played into the humans' plan. The warship had transformed from a defensive presence into a dominating force, a symbol of what careful preparation, intelligence, and human determination could achieve. It was a demonstration of strength without recklessness, of power guided by strategy, and of humanity's ability to outthink even the mightiest of empires. On board the human warship, the crew took a brief moment to assess the situation. They did not celebrate. They knew that the empire was powerful and relentless, and that the battle was far from over. But they had achieved something extraordinary. They had forced the empire to retreat, adapt, and reconsider its approach. They had shown that human ingenuity, intelligence, and discipline could rival overwhelming power. The warship had become more than a vessel of combat. It was now a symbol of hope, strategy, and human capability in the face of impossible odds. The empire, meanwhile, faced a crisis of confidence. Their soldiers, trained to dominate, now questioned their ability to win. Their leaders, once supremely confident, now realized that a single human warship could disrupt an entire fleet and force entire strategies to fail. The arrogance that had defined the empire for centuries had been shattered. They had learned a harsh lesson. Preparation, intelligence, and calm determination could overcome even the greatest armies. As the humans prepared for the next stage, the galaxy watched in silent awe. The battle had already become legendary, not because of destruction or death, but because it demonstrated something far more extraordinary: the power of human ingenuity, patience, and courage. The empire had been humbled, and the humans had proven that even in the face of overwhelming odds, careful planning, teamwork, and determination could prevail. This was more than a battle. It was a turning point. The humans had shifted from defense to controlled defense, forcing the empire to reconsider its assumptions and strategies. The warship had become a symbol of human capability, showing that preparation, intelligence, and focus could challenge even the most powerful force in the galaxy. And as both sides prepared for the next confrontation, one thing was certain: the humans had changed the balance of power, and the empire would never underestimate them again. The final stage of the confrontation between the humans and the empire had arrived. After days of tense maneuvering, strategic strikes, and unrelenting pressure, the humans were ready to push the empire to a point of clarity. The empire's fleets, once confident and proud, were battered, disorganized, and demoralized. They had learned that sheer numbers and firepower were not enough against an opponent who could think, adapt, and anticipate every move. The humans had shown that intelligence, preparation, and teamwork could triumph over even the greatest military force in the galaxy. The warship moved silently through space, its presence both imposing and controlled. Every system was functioning at peak efficiency. Pilots manned auxiliary craft, ready to intercept any sudden threats, while engineers monitored shields and energy flows with meticulous attention. Strategists analyzed Imperial fleet movements, calculating every possible outcome. There was no panic, no hesitation, only a quiet confidence born from preparation and experience. The humans had reached a level of control that the empire could neither predict nor challenge. The empire, desperate to regain control, launched a massive coordinated assault. Entire fleets fired in unison, unleashing waves of energy that could have destroyed entire planets. This time, the humans did not simply defend. They began to actively manipulate the battlefield. Shield frequencies shifted in real time, drones intercepted weapons before they could strike, and auxiliary craft disrupted the coordination of Imperial ships. Every attack was neutralized, leaving the humans in control while the Empire floundered. Imperial officers watched in disbelief as their greatest weapons were rendered almost useless by a single human warship. For the humans, this was not a moment of celebration. Every move was calculated, every decision deliberate. The crew understood the stakes. The Empire would not stop, and any lapse in focus could be catastrophic. Yet, they were not afraid. Their calmness was a weapon in itself, forcing the Empire to make mistakes out of panic and frustration. The humans had turned patience into power, discipline into dominance, and preparation into a force the Empire could not counter. It was a demonstration of how human determination and intelligence could challenge even the most overwhelming odds. As the battle intensified, the humans began to push the Empire back systematically. They targeted key ships, disabling critical systems without destroying them unnecessarily. Fighters and capital ships were scattered, their coordination disrupted, and their morale plummeted. Every move the humans made was precise and calculated, ensuring that the Empire could not regain control. The warship was not merely surviving, it was shaping the battle itself, using strategy and foresight to dictate the pace and outcome. The psychological impact on the Empire was devastating. Soldiers who had once been fearless now hesitated. Officers questioned their own commands, unsure whether any plan could succeed. Even the most experienced leaders realized that their assumptions about human weakness had been wrong. The humans were not reckless, nor were they inferior. They were disciplined, intelligent, and capable of predicting and countering nearly every move. For the first time, the Empire faced the realization that they might not only fail, they might lose entirely. On board the warship, the crew worked with seamless coordination. Engineers adjusted energy distributions to optimize shields, weapons, and propulsion simultaneously. Pilots intercepted Imperial craft with precision, while strategists monitored every movement of the enemy. Communication was calm and efficient. Every message focused on coordination and efficiency. There was no confusion, no hesitation, just the quiet effectiveness of a team that had trained for years for this exact moment. Their preparation had reached perfection, and it showed in every action they took. The Empire attempted a desperate final maneuver, sending fleets in massive waves toward the human warship. They concentrated all their remaining firepower on a single point, hoping that overwhelming energy would finally breach the defenses. But the humans were ready. Shields redirected the energy, auxiliary craft intercepted the most dangerous threats, and drones neutralized weapons before they could strike. Every Imperial attack was anticipated, absorbed, or redirected. The humans had turned what should have been a catastrophic assault into an opportunity to demonstrate control, strength, and precision. By now, it was clear that the Empire could not win this confrontation. Their fleets were scattered, their ships disabled, and their morale shattered. Commanders were forced to retreat, regroup, and reconsider their approach. The humans, though capable of continuing the offensive, did not pursue recklessly. They maintained control, ensuring that the Empire could not regroup while avoiding unnecessary destruction. It was a lesson in dominance through intelligence, precision, and restraint, rather than through sheer force. The galaxy watched silently as this demonstration unfolded. Civilizations across nearby systems had observed the conflict with a mixture of awe and fear. A single human warship had not only survived against the Empire, it had dominated it, showing that preparation, strategy, and human ingenuity could overcome overwhelming power. It was a moment that would be remembered for generations, a turning point that redefined what was possible in warfare and in human capability. Even as the Empire retreated, the humans did not celebrate. The crew took the time to assess damage, ensure readiness, and prepare for the future. They understood that the Empire would eventually return, but this victory had proven a point. Humans could face the greatest force in the galaxy and prevail through intelligence, coordination, and discipline. It was not a battle won through aggression alone, but through preparation, foresight, and the calm execution of every plan. The aftermath of the confrontation left the Empire shaken. Soldiers and officers alike were forced to confront a truth they had long ignored. Their power was not absolute. A single human warship had disrupted entire fleets, destroyed morale, and demonstrated capabilities that the Empire had never considered. They had underestimated humans, and that mistake had cost them dearly. Confidence had been replaced with caution, arrogance with respect, and certainty with doubt. The humans, in contrast, had demonstrated not only their technological and strategic superiority, but also their humanity. They had fought with precision and intelligence, without unnecessary cruelty, showing that strength could be tempered with restraint. Their actions were deliberate, calculated, and guided by foresight rather than impulse. In doing so, they had proven that humans could not only survive against overwhelming odds, but could also shape the outcome of conflicts in ways that no one had anticipated. As the warship quietly moved away from the Empire's remaining fleets, its presence continued to send a clear message. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and it would not be underestimated. The Empire had been forced to acknowledge that one human warship, guided by intelligence, discipline, and preparation, was enough to challenge even the greatest force in the galaxy. For the humans, it was a moment of quiet triumph, proof that careful planning, teamwork, and focus could achieve what seemed impossible. The Empire began to retreat from the edge of human space, leaving behind scattered fleets and damaged systems. The humans had won without unnecessary destruction, demonstrating power, control, and strategy in a way that would resonate across the galaxy. The warship's presence alone had shifted the balance of power. It was no longer a question of who was stronger in numbers. The humans had shown that strength could be measured in intelligence, preparation, and resolve. Back on Earth, life continued quietly. Most people had no idea of the enormous event unfolding in deep space. Cities sparkled, satellites orbited silently, and people went about their daily lives, unaware that a single human warship had reshaped the balance of power in the galaxy. The humans on board the warship, however, knew the significance of what they had achieved. They had faced the mightiest force in the galaxy and survived, demonstrating what human ingenuity, discipline, and teamwork could accomplish. As the warship disappeared into the darkness of space, it left behind a galaxy that would never forget its presence. The Empire had been humbled, forced to recognize that humans were capable, intelligent, and resilient. The humans had proven that preparation, patience, and strategy could triumph over overwhelming odds. It was a victory that went beyond technology or firepower. It was a triumph of human spirit, intelligence, and determination. The story of this confrontation would be remembered for generations, not as a tale of destruction or war, but as a demonstration of what humanity could achieve. The humans had emerged not as aggressors, but as survivors and strategists, capable of facing the impossible and turning it into a triumph. The Empire, once confident and unchallenged, had been forced to reconsider everything it believed about power, strategy, and the potential of humanity. In the end, the human warship had done more than survive. It had changed the galaxy. It had shown that intelligence, preparation, and calm determination could shape the course of events in ways that sheer force could not. The Empire had been forced to retreat, and the humans had proven that they were a force to be reckoned with. The galaxy would never see humanity in the same way again, and one simple truth had been established. Even in the face of the greatest power, humans could endure, adapt, and triumph.